Hello everyone, my name is Thuli Zigalala and welcome to episode 4 of Good Vibes with Thuli. Welcome to my bedroom. Yes, I've decided to change things up a bit and move away from the lounge area into my bedroom. For me, inspiration is at the heart of everything that I do, including this channel. Each episode is carefully crafted and inspired by an idea or an emotion that is evoked within me that causes me to move in a certain direction or to speak about a topic that is close to my heart. And that's okay. Not everything has to go according to the plan all the time. Sometimes you just need to go with the flow and trust your gut feeling. That's when the best creativity, inspiration, and ideas can flow through you. Let's just call episode 4 a special edition. Everything about this episode is different, so special. Today, I'd like to speak less about a specific topic that's close to my heart and focus more on our featured content, a podcast called A Theatre Maker in Mzansi by Katlego Chale. If you follow his timeline, you know that he's always challenging our fitness with a 30-day cycling challenge or the 30-day skipping challenge. And if he's not challenging our fitness, Katlego is an amazing artist, actor, and playwriter. He's also studying his PhD. I can describe Katlego as someone who is determined and really ambitious. He's conscious of his social positioning and he uses that to inspire people around him. In this particular episode, he is actually interviewed by his sister and the conversation unfolds into very interesting themes and topics. I hope that you guys can enjoy and learn a lot about the theatre and the arts as a whole.
What's up? Katlego Chale here, and this is A Theatre Maker in Mzansi. This is my podcast where I'm going to be sitting down with all the coolest theatre makers in the game today. I want to talk to them about their process, their politics, and their audiences, amongst a bunch of other things. I also want to talk to you about this thing that we call art that we love so much. Anyway, without much further ado, let's do this.
So my first question is, what made you start this podcast?
So I started this podcast because I felt like there was a big part of our story, which is to say...
Who's our?
Yes, thank you for that. So this current generation of theatre makers, particularly those who are making theatre independently, so, you know, there's been like a resurgence of a different type of consciousness in a moment when, you know, government and corporate sponsors aren't putting so much investment into the theatre space. I've seen people who, despite all of that, have been flourishing. And I used to get questions from people all the time about like, yo, I'm a young dude, I'm in high school and I want to know how to get into, you know, the acting business or the entertainment game. And, you know, I just want to know how I can go about it, right? So, you know, you can tell people, yeah, go to a school or go do this or go do that, but you don't really know if they're going to have their desires taken care of. So I thought, you know, I also have questions for people who I would often, you know, speak to people like Jeff, like Billy, like Kucho, like Momo, and ask them, you know, in your journey. Actually, I think all the people that I've interviewed are here. X is here, Jefferson is here, Kucho is here, and Billy is here. Oh man, reunion. So I was like, you know, I want to ask these people some things that have been on my heart for a while, and I'm sure that other people have these questions too. So why not create a space where people can interact with them through me? And I thought, you know, a podcast would be great because recently we started playing around with the IG live and going live, so giving a screen experience, and that's been great too. But the limitations when we're not in lockdown are real, you know, because people's schedules are all over the place. So creating an audio format, long form audio format that people can just come back to whenever they want, I found that to be very, very compelling. So I thought, why not make a podcast, you know? Why not start something that people can go to and engage with and learn about today, what is happening on the ground in terms of the theater today. So that's why I felt like it was important to create a space for these voices. So around the moment when the lockdown is announced by the president, I won't lie. Up to that point, I was fine. When they said social distancing, I was okay because I like my space, right? So that I was fine with that because, there's still a level of freedom. I can still move around. I can still do what I need to do, even though in a limited capacity. When they said lockdown, I don't know, like something shifted in here. It felt like I kept on thinking about the Sharpeville massacre moment.
Whoa.
When because the reason for that was with the Dom passes, right? And Bo Robert Sobukwe did the whole march because they didn't want to keep carrying those passes, and it was about the restriction of movement and the limitation of people's liberties. So I felt like I was in a space where, yes, I understand why these restrictions are being imposed, but I still can't get rid of this feeling like,
something is being taken away.
Something is being taken away from me, and my own liberties are being limited. So in that space, I felt very alienated, and I didn't know where I could put the entire experience within my own body. And I kept having conversations with people around this because I hadn't felt that kind of anxiety from any other kind of experience. And then when I saw Mxolisi's post, Mxolisi made a post that said online theatre makers gathering, right? So this was just a WhatsApp group link. He was inviting theatre makers to just enter into this group.
What kind of jobs or positions or new kinds of doing things? I don't know.
New ways of doing things. Sure.
What kind of roles do you think are going to emerge from this in terms of the theatre space? So what will this era bring in terms of new jobs and new roles and new ways of applying what you guys do?
So I think not only in the theatre space, but in the service industry where there is a requirement of people meeting, I think there's going to be a merging of many roles. I think people are going to start multitasking in new ways. Because when I look at what happened with what we're doing with the online theatre festival, you can see, hey, Saul! Oh my goodness, guys, Saul is here. Oh man, that's so awesome. We did Best Friends, Worst Enemies by Smooth Quinana. The first one, he was in it. That was dope. Sorry, what question was I answering? Oh yes, the new roles that are going to emerge as a result of this isolated period. Yeah, so I think we're going to become multitaskers in a new way. Actors were having to edit for the first time. Most of us didn't even have any editing apps on our phones, which is going to take the self-tape game to a different level, because most of us hate doing self-tape auditions. I think, just having to create that kind of product for yourself, it can be, when you can see that the quality is bad, there's no way to hide it. In the theater space, it's the space is open, you can direct people's attention to different things, but when it's on a screen, everything is contained to this little thing, right? So you want to make sure that it looks good when you're about to send it out to an agent to look for work. So I think that's going to force us to level up in a new kind of way. And I think once we are able to get better equipment, once we're able to find a space where the government makes data free, please, government, please, guys, please, someone writes an open letter, because this is a national concern. This is not just about the arts, right? True. Data needs to be made free, and that's not even that's enough. I said what I said, and it is what it is. So I think people are going to start, upskilling in new ways, and I'm not sure if certain professions are going to fall away. I think they're going to have to redream themselves as well, right? They're going to have to adapt to the new kind of environment that we're in, because I think the world is not going to go back to what we thought was normal. And to go back to Jefferson's point, when we're talking about the theater, what are we going back to, right?
Okay, and then earlier we were speaking about, getting accreditation or some kind of, formal document that says you're a director, you're this, you're that, and basically you explained the concept to me about, in the arts, I mean, it's good to have that, but it doesn't really carry as much weight as it would in another industry.
Yeah.
I want to challenge that a little bit and say that, you said that, like what we agreed upon when we had the discussion was that, going to school and getting that formal education allows you to know how to apply your talent better, so it was a question versus having the talent and, having the skill or the technical know-how, to do what you're doing. So, in this space, what would you say to people who are contemplating studying drama and who also just have sort of found themselves in that space without any formal, education or training or whatever,
Okay, so let me start by saying I would never discard my experience of being in an educational.
Went all the way, like you're doing your PhD. For you to say that, I was just like, okay?
Sure.
Like,
But I'm not under any illusions to think that the fact of my having a particular qualification will make me better at my acting or my writing or my dramaturgy. That is really one going into the space that you want to go into, and training can come in many different ways. There are so many people within our space that haven't been trained formally, right? Who haven't gone to, what we call accredited institutions, even though that's problematic, because just you having a degree doesn't mean you're going to get hired, right? So in that instance, the degree is essentially useless. It's a personal journey that allows you to utilize the resources of the institution to make your craft better. So I think the point that I was trying to make is that one cannot go to those spaces thinking that they will be given talent there, or the ability to act will be given to them there. Maybe other people have different perspectives, but I think the reason why we have an audition is to figure out whether you have that thing, that thing that Claudia likes to talk about. Because I think when one does not have that thing, it's clear that, this may not be the space that they need to be in. I'm not saying that they could never step on stage and reach a level of proficiency that would, blow people's minds away. But I think, a school isn't necessarily going to do that for you if you don't already have that. So you have to come with something in your cup, right? Maybe it's 50% that you have and you need to be topped up all the way to 100. Maybe it's 25 and you need to be topped up to 100. But essentially there has to be something inside the cup, because working from an empty place, it's a lot, right? Momo says here. It can be, it can be disheartening for people when they discover much later in life that perhaps I don't actually have this thing, right? So there's a space where, talent comes in. I teach playwriting, but I can't tell people how to write. I can give them tools that can allow them to see writing in different ways, that can allow them to tap into different parts of themselves, that can allow them to ask questions that could make the writing better, but I can't teach you how to write, how to act. So I think that's the point I'm trying to make. If you want to go to school, do it, right? But know what you're going there for. Don't go there with the expectation that they're going to make you famous, they're going to make you good, right? That they're going to ensure that when you leave there, you're going to be, getting jobs, getting all of the things that you want. No, that's on you. You're starting from zero. You're starting from scratch. A letter of recommendation can't help you here, because no casting director cares about that. They care about what you bring in the moment here now, right? And I don't want to devalue my time in that space. I'm just trying to make the point that in the entertainment industry, it's not the same as, for example, in law, where you pass the bar, right? Just a car. We're working here. Come on. when you pass the bar in law, that speaks to you being at a certain level of proficiency within the law, and that it's not a given that you're going to get work, but you stand. You're allowed to play in that space. There's no real bar, and I'm speaking literally and metaphorically. There's no real bar that keeps people from deciding today that I want to go to an audition, right? So, I think it's valuable to get training. Get training, absolutely. But, don't think that school is going to be your salvation, not in the industry that we're in.
In terms of, a standard, a quality,
yes.
a something, how in your space do you guys regulate that? Because, like you say, anybody can walk into an audition and get it because they have that thing right? That is so undefinable. You can't put it in a box and say this is that thing we need, type of thing. But then with that will come a lot of things that don't meet A standard, A quality, A. How do you create that A standard, A quality, A, and maintain it?
So at this point, what's happened is that, you have companies like not companies, but organizations like the PMA, the Personal Managers Association. And that's like the agents that are in the game, right? They've come together and they've created a list of rates that are now market standard, but it's still finder because they don't have any kind of legislative power to enforce that, right? So this comes back to a legislative conversation to say what is happening to the white paper on arts and culture. It's a document that was put into review in 96. There were beautiful suggestions, and then a new minister comes in, he decides we're going to put it into review again. That thing is not sustainable without training. Things fall apart real quick. Tell them, TD, tell them. So if we can get to a point where we do have legislation that allows some kind of actionable consensus, right, to say that this is what we're agreeing it takes for someone to enter into this industry, then that's a different conversation. But we're not there yet. We don't have a white paper. We don't have legislation. The copyright amendment bill, it's still sitting on the president's table. And since we're non-essential workers, he's not going to look at it until, he has time, meaning he doesn't have time now. How do we bring people who are not within our world into the conversation so that, we're reaching people, in a new kind of way? You are constantly trying to sell your shows to your friends. And even if maybe they might hate your work, they can't say that because then you'll stop being their friend. But then this is what we as artists are often guilty of. Like, we expect our friends to also be our target market, right? To the point that if someone doesn't like the work that I'm making, are you really my friend? Because you've never come to see my show. And who are you guys? When your other friends make t-shirts. But I like the t-shirt, right? Like, I bought the t-shirt because I liked it, not because my friend made it. Maybe I did it because my friend made it, but that's unsustainable, right? Because if I'm doing things just to appease a group of people that don't necessarily vibe with what I'm making, I'm going to run myself into the ground, right? So I think you're absolutely right in that we need to direct our efforts to our audiences, right? And this comes to the question of thinking like business makers and entrepreneurs, right? Because the fundamental question of target market has been vacant. We only think about that right at the end, if we're completely honest, right? We're only thinking target market once we've made the show, once the posters are out, and now we're just like, yeah, guys, so yeah, we are posting on Facebook, but who are you making this show for? Are the people that you're making it for on your timeline? Or do you need to find new ways of reaching those people? And I think that last part, we haven't been doing that very well. We really have not.